All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Give me touching on the top prop bets that we have available today on both Underdog and PrizePicks. It is a big 12-game day, so let's go ahead and get straight into it. And so I do want to mention the first game is a game that I really like. We got the Warriors versus the Clippers, and then the other early game that we have is Timberwolves versus Charlotte, also a game that I kind of like, and so we'll see. Hopefully those go well. Looking at the first game, it's about a 5-point spread, a 229 for the over and under. The reason why I like it is because we pull up the injury report, we can see that Wiggins is still a game time decision. We know that Chris Paul is out, and we know that Gary Payton is out. So if Wiggins sits as well, it's going to open up a lot of usage for someone like Curry. Looking at the Clippers, we're not too worried about that, but all in all, them not having anyone injured should keep the game close enough for long enough. And so we look at what Curry did in the last game with him out in this exact same matchup. He was able to get okay. And the reason why it's important to note that both CP3 and Gary Payton are off the court is that they're both point guards. So you look at someone like Curry, his usage rate should go a lot higher, but actually it doesn't. It actually drops slightly with those two off the court. I think that's just a weird, strange sample size. All in all, though, he should be like a safe play. His points actually go down a decent amount actually with CP3 off the court. That's interesting. And we kind of saw that last game. So I guess that kind of does make sense. Like CP3 kind of opens up the court a little bit more for him. Obviously, CP3 a pass for his point guard. Maybe there is something there. But his rebounds do go up by 1. His assists don't go up too much. I thought that'd be a smash spot. And yeah, even with Wiggins off the court, it goes down for him. So, interesting. I would have thought that he'd be someone we'd be going in on. Actually, a player that benefits seemingly the most is Pods here. Pods gets a usage rate bump of about 5.2 with those players off the court, averages about 7.1 more points per 36. And that's just simply because he's going to get more minutes. He's getting more shot attempts up, seemingly gets about 3.6 more shot attempts up, gets about 2 more free throws. Averages about 8.9 more fantasy points per 36. So if those two players are off the court again, I think we can expect Pods to go out and have another solid game there. He'd probably be the one that benefits the most, but I actually really thought I was going to love Curry here. And now looking at the data here, it doesn't exactly love him as well. Now, Clay is someone that has been playing better as of recently. And so maybe there is something to his points, rebounds, and assists. You can see he crushed that. And maybe that's something we can go with. I would say that is a better sportsbook bet. And guys, I do just want to call out a couple updates. I am currently working on the DraftKings NBA update. That's pretty much done. I just need to go ahead and kind of figure out the presentation of it because it's slightly different. But I do want to call out this as well. So I have the difference, and this is going to be between Underdog and PrizePicks. So right now we can see with this game, we don't have any. If we pull in all the games, you can sort it by difference between PrizePicks and Underdog. So that's just a quick update I wanted to mention. And then you go ahead and click on this. It'll pull in the average sportsbook line compared to PrizePicks prop line difference as well. I think that kind of puts too much data into that. So that's why I'm keeping it as an optional metric. I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, all in all, maybe Clay's the only one I like there now that I'm kind of looking it over again. Looking at the Clippers, there's not going to be too much there. All the props that we're getting for them are seemingly correct right now, both on PrizePicks and Underdog. So let's go ahead and move on into the next game. The next game is going to be one that I like a decent amount. So we look at the next game. It is about a 6-point spread, so hopefully don't have to worry about a blowout. Looking at this, these are two teams in which I had been targeting given the injuries that they have. And so for Minnesota, it's obviously Ant-Man being out, but also we have Jaden McDaniels there, also looking like he's going to sit. And for what it's worth, guys, Anthony Edwards is expected to sit here as well. So that's going to mean the same starting lineup is going to be there. And it's going to be a good matchup for the Minnesota Bigs going against Charlotte. And then we look at it for Charlotte. They're going to be probably without Brandon Miller. We know that they're going to be without LaMelo Ball. And then Nick Richards, if he's out as well, that's going to lead to PJ Washington continuing to be a pretty decent value. If we're looking at it, Brandon Miller, definitely a current game time decision, as is Nick Richards. So really, to me, we're probably only looking at Terry Rozier. I do want to bring up the per 36 production, though, with those players off the court. So let's start with Minnesota. The player that I kind of like the most is actually going to be Karl Anthony Towns. And what's interesting about the line that we're getting from PrizePicks is that Towns line actually started at 4.25 for Underdog on the day. So they were definitely valuing him a little bit higher than what was Underdog in the average sportsbook line. Now, I will say, I do think he's going to get the over. We look at kind of his snapshot here. I don't think it's a true indication of what he's going to do. You know, I mentioned this on the last game with Ant-Man out. And if he's ruled in, obviously that's really going to hurt this prop. But with Ant-Man off the court, Towns has a 37.2% usage rate, averages 32 points per 36, and then 9.9 rebounds. So already at his over for points, rebounds, and assists, you tack on about 2.2 assists, seemingly there. Now, this is not as good of one as we had on the last slate. The last slate, they were really undervaluing him compared to the expectations, but he went out and crushed. And if we get a low fantasy score for him again, I think we can just go in on that. Honestly, if it's at 45, I'm still probably betting the over given the matchup that we have. Now, we also have to take into account Rudy Gobert, and we're not getting any props for him just yet, which to me is a little bit strange. Like, his role shouldn't change too much. Now, I will call out that he was someone that really crushed it fantasy score wise last slate because he had 3 blocks. He barely just missed out on getting his points, rebounds, and assists. He is someone that I think makes for a much better points, rebounds, and assist prop, or sorry, much better fantasy score prop rather than he does at points, rebounds, and assists. Now, his per 36 production does suggest he should be able to crush regardless. He averages 14 points per 36 right there. He averages almost 15 rebounds per 36, and he does average 1 assist. So, these numbers were slightly down compared to what was expected. Had a good game. I expect him to have a good game again. Pretty good spot for him. Now, Mike Conley's interesting. I think it's noteworthy. He actually sees his points drop a little bit, and also his assist drop slightly with Ant-Man off the court. It kind of does make sense. Probably not someone we want to be playing. And then these other secondary options, like Alexander Walker had himself a massive game last game. That is not something I expect to continue. I mean, 7 stocks, like, you don't expect that. So probably something I'm staying away from there. And all in all, like, I don't know if you guys wanted to bet the unders for Mike Conley, hoping that per 36 production stays there, you could. We can see PrizePicks has bumped his points up to 13. Not exactly sure why, maybe the matchup, but his per 36 point total is 8.5. So this line, and that's with Ant-Man off the court, is seemingly a little bit too high. Again, if Ant-Man's off the court. Let's go ahead and take a peek at Charlotte. And so for Charlotte, I do love the opening prop that we're getting with Terry Rozier for over 2.5 turnovers. It's just kind of a funny one. Obviously, with LaMelo Ball being off the court, we all expect Terry Rozier to continue to have a high usage rate like he has had. His usage rate with him off the court is about 29.6%. He does average 3.4 turnovers per 36 as well with him off the court. For Terry Rozier, he is someone that has been playing really well this season. If you look at his per 36 production with ball at the court, it's about 23.6 points, 3 rebounds, and 7.4 assists. So again, he is someone that's there with just the points and assists, and maybe that's the better route here where the data is favoring the over. And I kind of agree with that. Like, he gets 23.6 points and then 7 rebounds. So that's seemingly a big edge, I would say, there. And then the other options, like Gordon Hayward should be able to play better. You would expect Brandon Miller is someone that, if he's out, that does lead me to like Gordon Hayward a little bit better for the props that we're getting. But I think because he's questionable, we're not getting those props just yet. Miles Bridges has been someone that has been struggling lately, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe LaMelo Ball actually helps Miles Bridges out a little bit. Something to monitor there. And yeah, I know Mike Conley gets a matchup bump, but I don't mind the under here. Just to recap the other games, you could definitely roll with that. I think points and assists for Terry Rozier is one I want to be going in on. And then for Towns, I still think that this number is going to be too low, especially given the matchup with Charlotte. So I think that's a decent bet there. Underdog, you can run that out as well. So now let's go ahead and get into those later games. So looking at the later games, we have Orlando versus Brooklyn. Orlando has been playing really well. This is a 2.5 point spread, about a 227 for the over and under. Looking at the injury report, Jonathan Isaac, game time decision. I'm kind of expecting him to sit just because he played yesterday on the front end of a back-to-back, and he was a game time decision then. That could open up some minutes for some of the other players like Goga, the center. He actually saw a reduced allotment of minutes. And then looking at the Nets, you got Ben Simmons out. That doesn't matter. Lonnie Walker's going to be out as well. All in all, the Nets have been difficult to figure out. This could be a game that I'm not touching on too much, but let's go ahead and do the process. I'm going to sort it by both the teams to see if we are getting any good bet. And don't get me wrong, Wagner's been crushing it lately. If you guys want to continue to roll with his hot hand, you could. But seemingly, we're not really getting that many good props here at all. I will say more times than not, I think Cameron Johnson does get this over. He has been someone that has been playing pretty darn well thus far this season since he's been back. And he's been a consistent consistent point per minute type player. And what I mean by that is like rebounds and assists as well. He's going to give you a good chance at that over. I will say this is another slate where I'm kind of interested in Nick Claxton for maybe potentially points, rebounds, and assists. Rebounds, points and rebounds, and it's probably points and rebounds because he's not someone that's typically going to get over 2 assists. And so the points and rebounds, if he's continuing to get a decent amount of run, 30 minutes, I would love for him to get more than that. If he was getting more than that, we would be smashing this over. And I think he's going to be a good fantasy score prop, by the way, guys. Like, he is just stuffing the stat sheet with some blocks and some steals. And the market hasn't adjusted for him just yet. We saw this with Maxey early on this season. where for some reason the market hadn't adjusted. I think that's what's going on with Claxton. And so if we know he's going to get around those 30 minutes, I am happy to bet the over fantasy score there, depending on where it's at. But that's really it for this game. All the other ones kind of seem like good prop bets. I mentioned Wagner as someone that, has been playing too well. Seemingly this line does appear to be too low given how consistent he has been. So he's someone I think we could be looking at there. But let's go ahead and move on to the next game here. In the next game, we got the Pacers versus the Heat. Very high point total. I mean, that is crazy. 240 for the Miami Heat. Whew. And they're favored to win by 3.4 points. Fascinating, I'll say. Looking at it as well, you got Bam out. You got Jimmy Butler, game time decision. Tyler Hero is out. And I'm surprised by this. So like that must mean that they're expecting Jimmy Butler to play. Looking at Halliburton as a game time decision, they're probably expecting Halliburton to sit as well. Jalen Smith is out. We know that. Isaiah Jackson should be able to get some run with him being out. And so, yeah, we do need to take a peek at the injury report here specifically. Butler expected in. See Halliburton game time decision. Given the line that we're getting, I would assume that they're expecting Halliburton to sit. Very interesting there. And so we take a peek at the props that we are getting. Obviously, we need to call it the per 36 production for everyone with Bam off the court. Again, this is why I'm excited for this slate. There's so much news to break down that's really going to impact lines, and then you just hope that a player that's listed out doesn't get ruled active. It's been a weird unlucky trend with that lately. Looking at guys, Jaime Jaquez is the one that benefits the most actually with him off the court, and then Josh Richardson. And I would assume against the Pacers, they should be able to maybe shift to a smaller unit. Maybe Kevin Love starts at center as well. Maybe it's probably Thomas Bryant, but Kevin Love could actually end up getting the more run there. But yeah, looking at Jaquez, guys, he is someone that's been playing extremely well. I've been hyping him up, punched this channel. I was saying early on in the season, I can't wait until he starts getting more minutes because I'm going to be hammering his prop bets. And this is another one where finally the market has kind of caught up to him. But his per 36 production with Bam off the court is 20 points per 36, 4.7 rebounds, 3.4 assists. That all goes up. This is about the same. His fantasy points is about 33.2 fantasy points per 36. And we can see he has been crushing. Then if you tack on that with Tyler Hero off the court, who's obviously still out, the minute sample goes down a massive amount, but he is still the player that gets the most minutes. His points actually goes up to 23.5. His rebounds is still at 4.7. His assists go up a little bit as well. Like all in all, he just is still a massive producer with those players off the court. Looking at Jimmy Butler as well, guys, I want to see the props that we're getting for Butler. And so he has a high usage rate with those two players off the court, 30.5% with those two players off the court, averages 47 fantasy points per 36. His points is 26.5, rebounds is 6.4, assists 5.5. So they are seemingly having the market correct on Jimmy Butler. And then, yeah, potentially Duncan Robinson could step up into a bigger role still with Tyler Hero off the court. I actually kind of expect it to be Josh Richardson, but all in all, I want to be chasing some Jaime Jaquez props if we get that. That seems to be the smash spot on the slate. Again, if that's made available. I say if because, man, it's been super frustrating with like the seemingly best spots on the slate where they're not giving us those props until right before lineup block or not at all. Now, yesterday, I thought Keldon Johnson and also Zach Collins would be smash spots for their fantasy score. Zach Collins was. We didn't get that, though. I say that because his points, rebounds, and assists was pretty low, and he had a bunch of blocks. He would have got the over there. And then Keldon Johnson just was not shooting the basketball. It was strange. But all in all, like, been crushing it with that prior to last night, like insane amount. So I think Jaquez is that option today. And so we move on into the next game here. We got the Pelicans versus the Bulls, 3.3 for a spread, 220 for the over and under. Looking at the injuries, Zach LaVine has been listed out. You got DeMar DeRozan as a game time decision. Zach LaVine being out really doesn't shift that much yet this season. I mean, it should eventually, but it hasn't. Looking at the Pels, CJ McCollum's out, and I do want to point out Larry Nance is out. That has led to JaVale really crushing it lately. And yeah, the matchup with the Bulls is not the best, but I do expect him still to get around 28 minutes, and he's someone that still should be able to crush with those 28 minutes. So I don't know if we're going to get, we're not getting any Chicago props yet because that obviously shifts a lot of the slate. If we get news that DeMar DeRozan sits as well, he's expected to play right now. I'll just give you guys the lowdown on if DeMar DeRozan is out, because again, it doesn't shift too much when Zach LaVine is out. For some reason, it's weird. But when you take out two high usage rate players like DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, that should open up a lot. And it's actually Ayo with the most minutes. He played 39 minutes last game. And again, it's too small of a sample size to really say that, oh, Zach LaVine's off the court, he's going to be someone that benefits. But this is a spot where maybe we're looking at it. He averages 18.8 points, 4.2 assists, 3.4 rebounds. So obviously gets a massive bump. Patrick Williams is someone that does get a bump as well with those two players off the court. He's actually kind of been the most consistent fantasy producer with them off. Now, he had a bad game in his last game, still shot the ball 14 times, 0 for 4 from 3. That's just a poor night shooting. You don't expect that to continue. The Bucks are kind of a more difficult matchup for opposing bigs. I think that's just what occurred. And so he is someone that only averages 10.7 points, but he averages 5.8 rebounds. The assists stay the same, but all in all, he could be somewhere looking at for points and rebounds then. Vooch, doesn't really get a big bump. Kobe White does. He averages the highest usage rate with those two players off the court at 27%. It's not mass, but still pretty good. About 35 fantasy points per 36. So that's something that goes up as well. His points is about 21. So 7 more points. And that could be huge in this matchup. And then his assists are at 6.4. Rebounds don't change. So we could potentially be looking at him for points and assists. Again, I just don't see them valuing that properly. And then if we look at the game spread, it's seemingly going to be a good game. And let's go ahead and flip it. We got the Pelicans. And obviously the Pelicans are going to be without CJ McCollum. I mentioned that they're also going to be without Larry Nance. Now, we're not getting any Pelicans props just yet. I find that fascinating. Again, I just want to prepare you guys for when we do get those. Now, again, J-Val has been crushing. I kind of expect that to continue. Now, it is the back end of back-to-back, always a concern, but we saw a similar game, 28 minutes against the Clippers, then came out and played 26. Yeah, that could happen again, but with Larry Nance out, I think he's probably going to get closer to 30 minutes, although if he gets 25, I guess I wouldn't be shocked given that is a back end of back-to-back. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if Zion sits on the back end of back-to-back. Now, they did crush him. Kind of surprised to see J-Val get that many minutes and Zion only get 26. I'm sure it was just a rotation thing, but something interesting there. All in all, I think this is going to be a fine game from Brandon Ingram, who has been struggling as of recent. But with McCollum off the court, he does have the highest usage rate on the team at about 32%. Does average about 3 more points per 36. This stays the same. This stays the same. So he just gets a few more shot attempts up. And that's the biggest difference for him. And so let's go ahead and move on into the next game. We got the Hawks versus the Bucks, a massive game total. This might end up being the highest game total I think ever, which Atlanta already set earlier on this season. I was actually really surprised by some of the opening lines that we had for this game. I'll touch on that in a second, but it's a 6-point spread. Yes, there is the potential for blowouts. Jalen Johnson being out still. DeAndre Hunter, Bay, and also Bogdanovich still in play. Looking at Pat Connaughton being out, looking at Jay Crowder being out. Malik Beasley's been someone that I've been calling out in passing as someone that has been a good value option in terms of prop betting. I'm hoping that continues again on the slate. But yeah, this should be a pretty good opportunity for us on the slate. So right now, I just kind of want to call out the props that we're getting. So we have seen on underdog guys, like for Chris Middleton, 21.5 for points, rebounds, and assists. I'm fine betting the over there. That is seemingly a big edge. We can see PrizePicks has already bumped it up to 22. And the reason being, if this is going to be a pace up spot, he's going to be in shot attempts up. And it's just like a soft matchup as well. You expect him to have a good night shooting in this matchup. And I am. He's averaging about 12 points. His minutes have been climbing. Like if he gets 29 minutes, 27 minutes in this game, he's going to be able to crush that over. And now that I'm thinking about it, man, I really like that. I really think that that's a good option, assuming that he does get those minutes. There should be some wide open looks for him. Just don't be cold, Middleton. Again, I think this is a better bet on underdog, where we're obviously getting that 0.5 edge, but that's going to be a good option. And that's going to probably be about 53% or so on underdog. So yeah, a good bet there. Let's continue on. You got Malik Beasley again. Like he has been someone that they really haven't been adjusting for with Pat Connaughton and Jay Crowder off the court. Those are two players that soak up a lot of minutes. And so because of that, he has been getting a lot of minutes. Like he has crushed this over the last 3 games, and the number hasn't really risen. And now you're getting him in a very appealing matchup. I don't really get what's going on here. I guess it's just not a priority, but this is one that I've been sneaking in there as like a 6th or 5th man into a slip just because I kind of wanted to get there. And I might do that again today. That might be the route to go, but I do think we're going to have a stacking opportunity in this game. And yeah, again, guys, with Connaughton and Jay Crowder off the court, Beasley has the most minutes by a lot. He averages 12.5 points, 7.1 rebounds. So already has over for points and rebounds. And then only 1.6 assists, but still a good one there. And I'm actually curious, what is his points and rebounds? Okay, so doesn't really matter which one you roll with there. And actually his rebounds could be the way that you go, although I like the points and rebounds and assists the best for him. And then we continue on. Like I was a little bit shocked at the lines that we were getting for both Giannis and also Lillard in this game. Even Lopez, I don't know. Bigs against Atlanta, I don't love, but looking at this line for Lillard, I know the projection data doesn't like the over here, but if we just adjust for like the matchup, actually that's not true. I was going to say if we adjust for the matchup, he should be able to crush. Not exactly true. I don't know. I think he's going to crush. Again, it's a good spot. You look at the last few matchups that have been good. Portland, I guess he didn't get there. Washington, I guess maybe it's a little bit too thinner than I thought it'd be. And same thing for Giannis. Maybe we are just looking at Beasley and Middleton there, where the lines maybe are not as high. I don't know. I don't mind attaching these into game stack. Again, 250. That is massive. Their lines haven't adjusted too much, I think, for the line that we're getting there. Just interesting. Brook Lopez is maybe someone that'll pop up, by the way, like for fantasy score. And I'm kind of assuming that, given the fact that they're already slightly favoring the over for his points, rebounds, and assists. Tack on a couple blocks, he could get there. Let's take a peek at Atlanta. So the issue with Atlanta is that with Jalen Johnson out, we don't know exactly which of their bigs is going to step up. It might be Bey, it might be Hunter, it might be Bogdanovich. I kind of like Bogdanovich a little bit better. I would say today he's been getting 30 plus minutes. He's going to get the shot attempts up. You know, he's probably not going to get that matchup with Giannis or Brook Lopez like the other two might get. And so I think he's in the best spot today. He's going to get some kind of open looks as well. Maybe we can see like a 3-pointers made for him. But right now, we're not getting any props for him. So definitely something to monitor. I think he's going to be the player that might be undervalued the most, like Beasley has or is for the Bucks. And so we look at the props that we're getting for Atlanta right now. A little bit surprising that they're all coming in a little bit for the unders. I will say, like, Trae Young is another one that, like, when I was going through this morning, just looking at it, I thought the over would be favored there for him for points, rebounds, and assists, as was DeJounte Murray. But I thought it'd be over by more for Murray as well. So we take a peek at that. 29.5 has about a 51% chance to hit for Murray. And to me, that's kind of just a matchup thing. Like, you got Murray going against the Bucks, Damian Lillard defense. That seems to be a spot. But he's been someone that's been struggling. And because he's been struggling, we've seen Trae Young really go off, and that's something where if you want to continue with that, I really don't mind that. Again, if it's going to be 250 for the over and under, you do expect other players to step up. I think it's going to be Trae Young, but I think it's going to be a combo of those three guards: Bogdanovich, Trae Young, or Murray going off, obviously, right? But just kind of figuring out that dynamic. All in all, it's probably Trae Young. And again, I don't mind a stack of like Young, Middleton, and then Beasley. Yeah, and then looking at Bey, like I don't know if I expect him to have a good game. Same thing with Hunter. Like I'm kind of worried about it given the matchup now. Cleveland's another team where against bigs you don't exactly love it, and maybe he just gets more run in this matchup because of it being a matchup with the Bucks where, you know, you got Portis, Lopez, and Giannis. You kind of need to have two bigs out there at all times, and I want to take a peek at that. Maybe there is something there. Only 20. He got into foul trouble as well. That's a concern. Man, like if he doesn't get in foul trouble there, he crushes that over, right? I don't mind it, I guess, for the over. Probably a little bit too thin, but all in all, decent. Like we have some stacking opportunities there. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. All right, so we got the Grizz versus the Suns. Potential blowout risk, kind of a low scoring game as well. Booker is a game time decision. He sat out yesterday on the front end of back-to-back. KD really crushed as a result. Beal is still out, as we know. Looking at the Grizzlies, they have a bunch of players that is out. Derrick Rose started yesterday. He's someone I could expect to sit on the back end of the back-to-back. If he does, it's going to be very difficult. Now, Bane had himself a good game yesterday as well. To me, it'll be interesting to see the props that we're getting here. And maybe, yeah, we're not getting any props for them just yet. And I would kind of agree. Like, it's wait and see there. For Phoenix, we're not getting any as well. And I kind of agree with that. With us not having that news on Booker really does change the whole game. So I don't really want to touch on that just yet. So let's go and move on to the next game. And in the next game here, kind of a fun game as well. 235 for the over and under and about a 4-point spread for the Mavericks versus the Thunder. And so looking at the injury report here, we do need to get news on Exum and Luka Doncic. Those are two players that sat out yesterday. Now you would have expected Kyrie to step up in the absence of those two players. He did not. Usage was there, but terrible night shooting. And so, yeah, he struggled. And you wouldn't expect that to continue again tonight. He'd be someone that maybe his lines are not properly valued with him off the court, with Luke off the court. Hardy was someone that DFS-wise people were flocking to as more of a price point thing. I don't know if we can expect him to have a better game. Curry only played 16 minutes in that game. Tim Hardaway Jr. was out as well. And so there's just a lot of weird stuff. It's really tough to gauge what we would expect again. Derrick Jones Jr. did have a pretty good game. Grant Williams really had himself a strong game as well. You know, whenever Curry or Luka are out, I think Grant Williams is a play that does get a bump. The stats would suggest that as well. So if his lines that we get today are closer to his average, I'd be fine betting the over. And I think that'd be the smart way to go about doing it. Again, that's if Luka's out. I like the over if they're closer to his average line. And the data suggests that as well. But I doubt we're getting any Dallas props. Yeah, we're not. We should be getting some OKC props, maybe. But again, we are. Let's see. Obviously, depending on the news, this could shift as well. All a little bit too thin. We got SGA for over points, rebounds, and assists. That's the only line that we're getting right now. Yeah, I don't feel the need to really touch that. And we do see this. Like, I'm doing this video a little bit earlier, so we're not getting all the lines for all the games. Now, I will say the Portland Trailblazers versus the Utah Jazz should be a good game to stack as well. A 2-point spread. So hopefully we don't have to worry about either of these two teams getting blown out. That'd be great. 220 or so, 219 for the over and under. Look at the injury report. Simons is the only one out still for Portland. I mean, we don't care about this. Looking at the Jazz, Chris Dunn out, Markkanen out, and then Jordan Clarkson out as well. So Keontae George going to get a lot of usage. And let's just touch on the Utah Jazz with those two players off the court, because besides John Collins, they're going to be without their two best players. That sounds weird to say, right? Jordan Clarkson being a team's best player, but it is what it is. And then also Kelly Olynyk, if he's out, Walker Kessler might be forced into a lot of minutes, as would John Collins. And so again, with Utah, we're not going to get any props for them just yet. So I just want to talk through it, because this could be a smash spot in terms of value. Now, Keontae George is someone that I would expect to get a heavy amount of minutes in this game. Now, it's not the best matchup, which is weird to say as well. But with those two players off the court, he is the player that has the biggest bump in usage. It goes from around 18% to 26%. He does see a slight bump in his points, but really the biggest bump is just in his shot attempts. He gets more shot attempts up with Clarkson off the court. And so I think we can expect similar to this. We just need to be making the buckets. And with it being kind of maybe a fun game to stack, I probably will be chasing some overs for Keontae George as long as they're not too high. Now, minutes-wise, it actually goes to Colin Sexton with Clarkson off the court. But all in all, it's not like too big of a bump. He is someone that is productive in limited minutes, but they've really been spreading out really the minutes to everyone. And you would think with Chris Dunn out as well, like players would be getting more minutes, but no, it's been Fontecchio getting a decent amount of run, and he is second in line in minutes after Colin Sexton with Clarkson and Markkanen off the court. He averages about 18.3 points per 36, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. I'm bringing that up because he did have 34 minutes in that game against Minnesota, and he is someone that I'm expecting to get run again in this game. Now, will he shoot the basketball that well? Maybe. I mean, he only went 2 for 7 from 3, only had 5 more shot attempts other than that, and so probably, honestly. And for what it's worth, this was a little bit lower than his per 36 shot attempts. So if he does get a few more minutes in this game, maybe there's something there. And that, guys, just for what it's worth, like, it's not showing it, but that game was a blowout. It really was. So maybe he gets forced into a little bit more minutes, but that also could explain why some of the other players think he has much run. John Collins has been a little bit annoying in the sense that the minutes haven't exactly been there. They've been getting blown out a decent amount, except for this game against the Pels. And maybe that's just a bad matchup thing. I don't really know. Like, they've been a little bit annoying with their minutes recently. And so it's tough to gauge really what to do. You got Omir, someone that's been getting some minutes. Again, if Kelly Olynyk's out, who has been getting around 20 minutes, I think the safest one would actually be Walker Kessler if he's going to be getting us 30 minutes or so. Someone I would like for probably points and rebounds, but all in all, probably just Keontae George and then Fontecchio. Looking at Portland, we actually are getting some props for them, so let's touch on Portland. And so yeah, looking at Portland, we got Jeremy Grant for over 2.5 threes made potentially, DeAndre Ayton for over rebounds and assists, Jeremy Grant for over rebounds, points, and assists. Not terrible there. Let's see here. Malcolm Brogdon, 31.5 for points, rebounds, and assists. I'm actually very curious where their fantasy scores come out to be, because I've kind of been mentioning, and this has kind of been nice, is that with Portland, I've kind of just been blindly betting their over fantasy scores, hoping that the game stays close. And then you can also run it back with that assumption. And like looking at it, like Ayton against Utah, I think he should be able to crush this over. I do, especially with the game staying close. Jeremy Grant, we saw the 3-pointers made. You could touch that. Brogdon as well. Like Cleveland, tough matchup. This is a much better spot. Like we can see they did just play Utah as well. And so like Ayton went off in that matchup. Now, yes, it's going to be different, the different players in and out, but still, he's someone that I expect to crush. Grant is someone who, if the game stays close like it's projected to, he should be able to crush. We saw he made 5 3-pointers in that game, so double what is projected to be right now, and he has been crushing that over lately. Maybe that's a cause for concern, honestly, is the fact that he has literally gotten the over 3-pointers made in like 6 straight games, so a little bit of a concern there. And then looking at Malcolm Brogdon, didn't have that many shot attempts going up against Cleveland. That is something I kind of would expect to get corrected in this game. That was the biggest difference in his production. And then against Utah, he did crush, and that was in limited minutes. So all in all, I do think there's a good Portland stacking opportunity here again. And then Sharp had himself a massive game last game. That's not something we expect to continue, but he has been someone that has been playing better. And I just think that's probably because they're a little bit more healthy. So yeah, a decent stacking opportunity there. Got 2 more games. And so looking at, we got Denver versus the Kings, about a 4.5 point spread, 231 for the over and under. Looking at the injury reports, Keegan Murray game time decision if he's back. I don't know if we can really be looking at any of the secondary options there. And then looking at Denver, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, currently game time decisions there as well. Aaron Gordon is someone that sat out on the front end of a back-to-back yesterday, so I'm kind of expecting him to play if he was actually close. And then same thing with Jamal Murray. And if that happens, then something like MPJ, I think we wouldn't be looking at. And so I really don't want to touch on this spot just yet. It's more like, let's say Jamal Murray's out or Aaron Gordon's out, then I think we're looking at MPJ to have another pretty solid game to be over his averages. And so that is something that has been happening. That is something I would continue to want to roll with. So got to take a peek at the injury report there. Jokic should be in for another pretty solid game as well. And so yeah, because of that news, we're not getting any props for them just yet. And I'm actually curious, we might not be getting, we are getting some Kings props. Let's take a peek. Probably just Fox and Sabonis. Yeah. Fox over points and assists at 34.5. Decent opportunity there. We do see Sabonis for over 2.5 turnovers, seemingly a decent prop as well. All in all, those are 2 decent ones. And then let's get into the last game. So looking at the last game, we got the Rockets versus the Lakers, 5-point spread, 222 for the over and under. Rockets are healthy. We keep seeing this. I think we expect LeBron and AD to play. And so Fred VanVleet is going to be back. We can actually see this could be a decent opportunity for under 9.5 assists, where Underdog has it set at 9. We can see the projection data has it set at 9 as well. So maybe a potential edge there. The average sportsbook line is favoring the under as well. Sengun, I don't want to touch that, I don't think. Jabari Smith, that's an interesting line difference there. All I don't really like those props. Then we take a peek at the Lakers here. Yeah, Lakers probably still a little bit too thin as well. And then guys, just pulling it up again on Underdog. So we did see that they did bump up that Chris Middleton points, rebounds, and assists prop. Unfortunately, we do have one for Finney Smith for under points and rebounds for at 14.5. If you guys want to bet the under there on Underdog, that's seemingly a good edge there. Yeah, so it's going into the bet of the day. So to me, these are the best prop bets on the day right now. Again, these make for probably better bets on the sports books. Just because, they weren't the best EV bets. Once we get some fantasy score props, I think that'd be the better way to go. So we'll see. But right now, I think these are the best ones. I do want to call it an Underdog slip as well. It is still available as I'm finishing this video. It's a good EV bet, so another good bet of the day. And yeah, this is college football, but these both had 53% likely to hit. So by all means, if you guys want to chase these, seemingly good bets. But that's going to be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching this. Have a good slate today. Please make sure to give a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to the NBA cheat sheet for both PrizePicks and Underdog, head over to 95sports.com. It is available for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.